Over and above that, I think what I was pleasantly surprised is, like I said, this course allows you to rub shoulders with really senior folks very early on. And I honestly grabbed that opportunity. Not a lot of courses out there allow you to talk to CEOs, to talk to CFOs, to have direct line of sight with leadership. And I think that's really a standout of the CA course. But there's a lot of opportunity to rub shoulders with the right people. I'm Nikhil Damle. I'm a qualified chartered accountant. I'm the head of finance for a large US based healthcare company, and I head their finance operations for India and the Southeast of Asia operations. Typically, a CA, once they qualify, they would have three broad options. The first option would be to maybe start up their own firm or start their own practice. That has obviously its own pros and cons. When someone starts their own practice, one of the pros is you get to run it the way you want. You grow the business as you would like. You basically own and operate that business. The con is obviously the risk comes with it. It's on you to bring in that clientele at all times. But that is a very viable option as a fresh CA to start your own firm. The second broad option is there's also a middle path where if you don't want to start up your own firm and don't want to take that risk, you could join another firm out there, or there could be the big four that you could join. The big four essentially is Deloitte, KPMG, PwC, and Ernst & Young. So that's again a very viable career option where you could join their audit practice or their taxation or consulting, advisory. There's a fair bit of services that firm operates. Going to the third biggest option, and that's what we call moving to the industry. So that essentially means that you can do what I said earlier, but that's on coming into the internal operations of a company and joining the finance team of a company, right? So that's the third option out there. Every company needs a finance team. There's all sorts of work that you can start off with. It could be basics like accounting, financial planning, taxation, treasury, and really the list is really endless. So that's how I would put it, as three broad options as someone passes out their CA. So honestly, the CA course has earned its name to be a very tough and a grueling course. Essentially, there are three main exams that one has to cover. You start off with the foundation or the entrance exam. You move on to what we call the intermediate exam, and then you top it off at the end with the final examinations. Every exam and paper requires you to have a minimum of 40% as your marks in order to pass. And I guess that sounds easy, right? But it's probably not. Marks are really hard to come by. Scoring generally is very difficult. But I think that's half of the equation. The other side of the equation is a lot of students also do their bachelor's and their master's along with the CA course. You're allowed to do that with the course. And then to add complexity, CA students also need to do something called Articleship, which is a grueling 3.5 year practical training period. Articleship is not commonly known, and in fact I think it's important for each person that gets into this stream to understand articleship. Articleship is a 3.5 year period where you do a practical training under the tutelage of a chartered accountant. Okay. Now what that means is you have to study for your exams on the side and do a full day's job next to that. And that's where the challenge comes in, and that's why the chartered accountant course is fairly difficult. You could either join a chartered accountant himself or themselves, or you could join a firm of chartered accountants, or you could join the big four, which are very popular. Once you join them, they would assign you to either an audit function or work on taxation or advisory. The most common function is auditing. Okay, and I think I really like that function because it really builds the foundation as you start off in this career. It gives you the intricacies and line of sight to really complex parts of the business, and that's very valuable as you start off as a young kind of budding CA. I think the real reason why articleship is valuable is, it's not very easy at that stage of one's career to rub shoulders with senior leadership, CFOs of other companies, CEOs of other companies, and I think that's a really valuable asset to and relationship to build with such people very early on in your career, right? That bode really well for me as I started off my journey, and in fact those relationships I think are the reason of where I am today, right? So I would strongly recommend each person should take their articleship very seriously. Try to look at which firm really fits the line of work you want to do. Are you leaning towards more on the auditing side? Are you leaning towards more on taxation or consulting? There are firms out there that specialize in each of these. So I'd really urge you to take a good look at where you want to finally land up and accordingly, do your articleship. Articleship, I think one of the plus points of doing CA and doing an articleship is the investment in the course is actually very less. The exams themselves don't cost a lot of money. Additionally, you make money or earn money when you're doing your articleship. So to give you a sense, you would start off maybe with a few thousands in the first few months, but it can go as high as 15 to 25,000 a month as a monthly stipend that you earn, right? So that's a really good opportunity to make some money on the side and keep that investment or the cost of your education as low as possible. So yes, indeed, you do earn as you go. So honestly, the pass rate is very low, and I don't mean to dishearten people, but that's the fact of the matter. Although it's been many years since I gave my exams, I think the current pass rates are, for every 100 students that appear for the exam, roughly about 5 or 10 clear the exam. To give you an analogy, I believe the Harvard acceptance rates are also about 5%, and we're seeing similar passing and acceptance rate for CA, so those numbers speak for itself. So every level has roughly about 5 to 10%. I think the way it works is you'd have higher pass percentages on the earlier exams, like your foundation exams. The pass rates would reduce for intermediate, and then you would see only about 5 to 10% really making it through the final exams. So the good news is the course itself does not cost a lot. So to give you an example, the exams cost roughly about 2 or 3K, very minimal, very affordable. So the exam costs are very low. I think the majority of the costs are that students use coaching classes, and that's where they spend, I think, most of their money. However, it's also important to know that as we spoke about articleship, you do earn quite a bit on the side. As you go along, it could be as high as 15 to 25,000 a month, and therefore my experience is that you end up earning a lot. You have a nice sum of money at the end of the 3.5 year course, which means that your cost of investment in the course is almost zero, or you have net earnings, right? Now, the interesting part is when you compare this to MBAs, or if you compare this to an MBBS, or as you all did a series on what it costs to do a pilot course, that could be in lakhs and crores. And when you compare that with the CA course, your investment is minimal. You may have net earnings as you go on the course, and what that does is it opens you up to a massive return on that investment, right? The opportunity and the earnings once you clear your CA are endless, and your investment is very low. And I think that's the real standout of why so many people look at CA as a very good career opportunity. I guess the things I found surprising during the course was, the level of detail you really get into as you're going through the course. So, as an example, I think a lot of us CAs, once we were done with the exams, what we did is we stacked up our books one on top of the other and stood right next to it. And you'd see that the stack of books is probably taller than what you are, right? So what that goes to show is there's a lot of material out there. There's a lot that you need to cover in the 3 to 4 years, and genuinely I was surprised by the level of detail that the course entails. Over and above that, I think what I was pleasantly surprised is, like I said, this course allows you to rub shoulders with really senior folks very early on. And I honestly grabbed that opportunity. Not a lot of courses out there allow you to talk to CEOs, to talk to CFOs, to have direct line of sight with leadership. And I think that's really a standout of the CA course. You could do that during your articleship days. You could do that when you're a freshly minted CA. But there's a lot of opportunity to rub shoulders with the right people. So fresher CAs typically can earn somewhere in the range of 6 to 12 lakhs per annum. Now, of course, that depends on where you're located, what kind of a company or a firm you've joined. Secondly, if you're starting your own practice, like I said earlier, sky is the limit based on the clientele you get in. But typically 6 to 12 lakhs as you start off, and these are just averages. You do have outliers. So for example, there are large FMCG companies that offer fresher CAs right out of the campus placements, roughly at 25 to 30 lakhs as well, right? So it's all about finding the right fit. You always have outliers, you have large players, you have small players, you have locations which pay higher than the rest, obviously, and therefore it really depends on where you land up. But those are the broad averages. After that, once you've settled in, after a year to 2 to 3 years, honestly, there's no number that I can put. It's the sky is the limit. You could go very, very quickly up to 25 to 30 to 35 lakhs very quickly. As you get into leadership positions, that could go up to 50 to 75 lakhs very quickly as well. And then, like I said, it all depends on what kind of companies you're with. If you're with a Indian publicly listed company, that could be a different pay range. If you're with a CA firm, that could be a different pay range. And therefore, I'd like to reiterate that it really depends on where you are at and when you're at there. I think if I were to reflect over the last decade or so, it's been an extremely satisfying journey for various reasons. One is it's allowed me to be in different geographies over the span of my career. Second is it's given me a lot of high growth as well. So it really depends on where you're at, which company, which industry, but in general, you should know that growth is up for grabs. I think it's also led to a lot of monetary benefits over time, which we'll talk about later. But all in all, I think I'm pretty happy with the decision that I made. It's a fulfilling career. I think the plus point is it allows you to work with any and every sort of enterprise out there, right? You could be with a startup one day, you could be with a very large corporation the next, you could be with a firm in the middle of your career. And there's really no limit with what kind of enterprise you're associated with, right? And that's what I really like. I keep saying that every company out there, or every firm, or be it an individual, or be it a shopkeeper, or be it a CEO, or someone who's an HNI, they all need finance help, right? And therefore, there are a lot of opportunities out there. I've been able to fit myself in the right places that I feel so. And looking back, I think over the last 5 to 10 years have been extremely rewarding. I think there's a lot of opportunity out there for CAs that are just kind of starting their journey. I think the first and foremost advice would be don't be frightened by the things you hear like low pass percentages or how difficult the course is, right? I think every course has its pros and cons, and so does the CA course, right? So don't be frightened, don't be demoralized by that, and that would be advice one. I think the other advice would be it's also a very noble profession, right? So when you come into the course, know that you're playing a critical role. You're playing a role to avoid frauds. Make sure the economy is on the right track, and you're part of a cog in the overall machinery, right? So I think it's very important to understand what this profession does. And I think the advice would be to not get lost along the way, chasing maybe money or material things. And I kind of say that every day when I meet new budding CAs.